season of college graduations, I remember like it was yesterday, daughter Liz's commencement, when the convocation address was presented to the graduates of the class of 2008. The keynote speaker, the late Maya Angelou, noted actress, singer, civil rights activist, poet, and author. The subject of her address, passing along to the graduates a few pearls of wisdom accumulated during her 80 years on this earth. Courage is the most important of all virtues. Without courage, you cannot practice any of the other virtues consistently. These words from Ms. Angelou struck a chord with me. I've woven the discussion of life's virtues through many of my written columns, but may well have neglected to place appropriate focus on the one that is the cornerstone of all virtues. As I looked around the audience and reflected on the young graduates excited, glowing, and ready to tackle the world, I thought about the courage that each of them had displayed, and at such a young age. To venture away from home, to subject themselves to the rigors of an Ivy League education, and now to move permanently away from the comfort of family into challenging new jobs in strange new places. Like Angelou, C.S. Lewis said that the virtue of courage is a prerequisite for the practice of all other virtues, because otherwise one is virtuous only when virtue has no cost. We know that when something needs to be done, and yet we are painfully aware that if we do this thing, we may pay a heavy personal price. Courage is the virtue that makes us willing to pay that price. Cowardice makes us say, the price is too high, I will not pay it. The price was high for these young people, not just the financial costs, but for most, their courage and price paid will lead to great rewards throughout life. The word virtue stirs different thoughts among different people. So what about these virtues that Angelou contends are dependent on courage? Three popular historical perspectives define virtues as follows. The cardinal virtues. Classical Greek philosophers considered the foremost virtues to be prudence, temperance, courage, and justice. The theological virtues. St. Paul defined the three chief virtues as love, hope, and faith. The seven contrary virtues. The contrary virtues were derived in an epic poem written by Prudentius. Practicing these virtues was supposed to protect one against temptations toward the seven deadly sins: humility against pride, kindness against envy, abstinence against gluttony, chastity against lust, patience against anger, liberality against greed, and diligence against sloth. Though the ancient discussion of virtues seems to place no particular importance on courage, it's a small leap to adopt Angelou's and Lewis's premise that without courage, the practice of the others cannot consistently be accomplished. To have courage is easier said than done. In every case, being courageous requires one to take the path of greater resistance. It requires putting oneself in emotional or physical harm's way, and it requires stepping out of our comfort zone. So how does a person learn courage? To me, courage is a matter of discipline. As I like to say about the game of golf, it's 90% mental, and the other 10% is all in your head. To be clear, practicing courage is not the same as not being afraid. Fear is an expected and natural emotion. Courage is the art of being able to push ahead in spite of the fear. As To Kill a Mockingbird author Harper Lee said, real courage is when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway and see it through no matter what. When faced with a choice, try taking the risk rather than the safe way. The world is full of highly successful people who took risks. There are also those runners-up who will always wonder what they might have achieved had they had the courage to try. Indeed, in about a month, we'll celebrate the courage of 56 early Americans who, by signing the Declaration of Independence, risked all that they had, including their very lives, to set in motion a series of events that led to the formation of the United States and the very freedom we enjoy today. It may be unfair to compare the courage of the college graduates with the founders of our democracy, but in each case, individuals pushed aside fear and made decisions that will ultimately result in a better world for themselves and others around them. As I see it, if we each consistently remember that courage is the cornerstone of all virtues, we can positively impact our world in small and big ways that perhaps we could not have imagined. Is it easy? No. Is it worth it? Absolutely. I'm John Longstreet with another edition of the Longstreet Beat. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.